Hello, everyone, and welcome to Power Hour. I'm Laura Rogers. Our topic today is going to be SharePoint site ownership management concepts. So, this is kind of like when you're giving a SharePoint site to someone, they're going to be the new site owner. This is important things that they need to know that you need to show them if you're the SharePoint admin and you need to teach the owners these things, or if you yourself are a brand new site owner. So this is not going to be site admin concepts, not central administration, but just on a site. So let's do the stinger. All right, again, this is Power Hour, a show that Joelle and I have been doing for over 10 years. Welcome, and we have a lively chat that we have going on just in Teams. So wherever you're watching this video, there's a link to request to join, and it's got a form to fill out, and then we manually invite everyone. And then that's the fun thing about it being live is you never know what's going to happen, and we have this chat where you can ask questions and we discuss things as we're demonstrating them. So you all vote the day before on what our topic is. So yesterday you voted on the concept of site ownership and management, kind of like site owner onboarding. And we did this as a topic back in 2020. So we're just kind of revisiting. Some things have changed since then in SharePoint. So we're revisiting this and putting a different spin on it. So what we're going to do is just kind of, now Power Hour is pretty informal. It's usually just kind of informal demos. We just talk through things as we're going. We usually don't have like a bunch of formal slides and a lot of preparation. But for this one, all these concepts that I'm teaching do exist formally in our site and our training. So when you go to iwmentor.com, we do actually have a course called Site Management, and it's long. It's like a couple of hours. So that we have lots of deep dives in a lot of these topics we're going to talk about today in our formal training. And it's much more structured than this. So that's where you can go if you if you kind of see something we talk about and would like to learn more about it. And also in Teams, Joelle has been posting in the resources. So if you go to the posts tab in there, there is a list of resources that we added. It says resources for 117, site ownership management. And it's got a lot of links to some of these other Power Hours that we've done. We're like site permissions. We did a whole hour on that. So it's got links referring to other Power Hours where we've talked about some of these topics. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'll share my screen. And let's see, where'd that go? And there's Joelle in the corner, and there's me in the other corner. So Joelle is really good at working with companies to work on their intranet and their structure and kind of deciding and working with them on what the different sites are going to be, who's going to be in charge of them, like making decisions if different things need to be a communication site or a team site. So the very first concept we're going to talk about is the two different site types, because depending on a few different sort of concepts, you're going to have one or the other. Joelle, what are kind of like some of the main points, some of the main things that you tell people that are the differences between the two different types of sites?
I think the easiest one is to just look at the purpose of the site first. Like, what is the intention? What is the site doing? Like, what is it for? And usually that's can be pretty simple. I mean, like you will either recognize that, oh, this site is for communicating. It's an intranet site. It's for communicating HR updates. It's for communicating. It's an IT site for logging help desk tickets. It's kind of like meant for users to come and get information, right? And that's usually going to be your communication site. So it's where a small amount of editors are pushing out information to a large amount of viewers. And then a team site is more on the collaboration side. So that's going to be, this is a project site where we're all working together on a project, working on documents, that kind of thing. We need teams. We want to work in teams, have chats, and have our editing files and all that stuff. So that's really more where the team site comes into play. And that's like where you have majority of the people are editors, and either there's no readers or only a very few amount of readers.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so now let me show you how you can get to the screen I'm on. Now, a couple of things to note is that when you are in SharePoint, just when the site is being created. Now, if you're a site owner, somebody could have just created it for you and handed it to you and said, here's your link, here's your new site. That happens, I think, probably most of the time. But when you go to this SharePoint button, or if you go to SharePoint in the full menu, then you might have a create new site button right here. Now I've turned that setting off, and your admin could have turned that setting off. So I don't have one here, but if you're a SharePoint admin, you go to your active sites and that's where you can create them. But also when you create a Microsoft team in Teams, that also creates a team site. So if you go to your list of all your teams, let me maximize this. And I think I have it turned off in here too. Yeah, sometimes you might have a button that lets you create a new team. But again, that depends. So that's why I wanted to kind of show you a couple of different things as to why or why not you're gonna see the button to create the site. So you create the site and you pick whether it's going to be a team site or communication site. And we already have a couple of these, and I'll just use the ones that we already have as our examples. So this IW Mentor, just this Power Hour site that you all even have access to, where we do a lot of our demos, that is a team site. And then you can see it's got 437 members. And then another one I have is, you can see what type they are here if you're an admin. So I do have a whole other Power Hour. We talk about SharePoint admin topics, but this is just a spot where you're going to be able to see them listed. Now, if you were on a SharePoint site, let me close this, and you just need to know whether you don't know if you're the owner of a team site or a communication site. A team site is going to have the number of members listed, and it's going to say either public group or private group. So the group means that it is a Microsoft 365 group, and the team site is it's like they're part of each other. It's all the same thing. So all the people that are in the group are the members of the site. So that's how you can see, you'll see the number of members up top, you know that's a team site. And if you go and you don't see the number of members and you have the ability to like share the site, you don't see the number of members there, that's going to be a communication site. So this is our communication site, and this is our team site. So that's the first thing. Now what I'm going to do is most of the topics that I'll talk about today, I'll just do them here in the team site. And I got it nice and zoomed in. And I think that team sites are more common because you have team sites when you create a Microsoft 365 group. You have team sites when you create a Microsoft Teams team. And so those are going to be more prevalent. So this is where I'm going to spend most of the time in this presentation. So first of all, when you have a site, you have two official roles that you're giving people on the site. And that is going to be the most common thing that site owners are going to do, is to manage who has access to the site. Now, if it's a public group, that means that anybody can it says public, anybody in your company can find that site and just jump in and just join it. And if it says private, that's going to be where you're actually spending time like allowing people, giving them permission to the site, and you're controlling who has access to the site and everything in it. So one of the biggest things when you think about the site owners versus members, I highly recommend only one or two site owners, just a couple. A lot of the times we look at, we're in customers' environments all the time, right, Joelle? And we're going through their sites and helping them with things. I'll see 15 owners in there. And, what I've seen happen is that, so think about like executives. People think, oh, well, the executives, they need to be the owners of everything. And so for some reason, people think that the people that need access to all the content are the ones that need to be the owners, but that is not the case. That is the biggest sort of misunderstanding about the owners versus members. Owners means that you can mess with all the settings. You have access to all the settings, all the site settings, all this stuff that most people don't even know what it is. So owners have access to all the settings that they can change. They can add, delete entire lists and libraries, and they can manage the home page, but also just they can accidentally maybe delete the whole site or change settings that they don't even realize what they're doing. So I highly recommend when you give someone ownership of a site that they get some sort of training or some sort of acknowledgement that they understand what power they have and what the purpose is of their ownership role. Now, members also have a lot of permission. Just by default, members can do a lot of stuff on the site. So that's what I think that also people don't realize. When you make people members, they can edit the home page. They can add, edit, and delete entire lists and libraries, and they can add and delete, of course, all the content in every list and library on the site. So most of the time, most of the people that are going to be on this site don't really need to be owners. Owners are really going to be mostly the people that need to manage their permissions. That's the most common thing they do. So pretty much everybody, members can do like all the common things like editing the homepage and all the content. The content is the main thing that people are going to be working on in that site, right? So that's going to be a big, that's the most important point to me, is the understanding site owners versus members. So when I am going to site permissions here, I can click on site permissions, or I can click on the number of members here. And the number of members is just like the most simple interface to get to. So you can see that most of you all, since this is Power Hour, I've added you all in here. Most of you all are guests, which means you're external users and you're logging in to your credentials and your tenant, but your tenant account has access to mine, so you're guests. So see, I'm the owner in here, and we have Brenda is another owner. And when I click to add members, then it's letting me search the directory for someone. Let's see if I have anybody. So when I'm adding members, it's only giving me people in the directory. So see, here it is. So when I am adding somebody, those are the only two roles that it's giving me. So those are the basic two roles. And the most common thing is to make people members. So you got member and owner, and I'll click cancel, and then you can go change it later. You can change them from owner to member or remove them from the group. Brenda is my husband's aunt, and she helps us. She's the one that invites all y'all into the Power Hour. So she's in here all the time, like inviting people in, and you get those little email notifications when you've been added to the group. So that's like her job. So she's in there. So that's our group membership, and that's the simple way to add members. And then let's talk about, I want to show you the actual permissions. So again, we do have a whole Power Hour. We dive into SharePoint permissions. We even have a whole Power Hour about item level permissions. And Joelle has put those links in the little resources tab I was talking about. But I want to show you the actual things that owners versus members can do. So I'm going to go to the advanced permission settings. And the only reason I can get to that is because I'm an owner. And this is the old school. This is the old school SharePoint permission screen that you might recognize if you've been using SharePoint for a long time. A lot of people these days, you don't even necessarily ever need to go here if you're just doing owners and members. But I want to show you the permission levels so you can kind of fully understand what the owners can do. So the owners have full control. The full control permission level has all these things you can do. You can manage the list, add, edit, delete items, approve items, manage all the permissions, view the analytics, create subsites, manage the whole website. Basically, every single box is checked of what the owners can do. But let's go to, basically the members are all given this edit permission. And I've got, you've probably heard me rant about my pet peeves about edit versus contribute, but let me show you what edit can do. So this is what members can do by default when you add them as members. And some of this might be shocking to you. They can manage all the lists, create and delete lists, add and remove columns in all of your lists and libraries. People can accidentally do this if they're a member and they don't realize. They can add, edit, and delete items, open items, view versions, delete versions, create alerts, that's fine. And then they can, some of this stuff like viewing pages, it's not really important. They can create personal views, which is fine. But this manage list is the big one that lets them do a lot of stuff. So what I usually like, now you can't change it. It doesn't let you change right here. I can't change members to just have contribute level on the whole site. It's not going to let me do that. But if you have a specific list or library, you can change. I like to change it to contribute. So edit to me is too much. So if you have people that you don't want them adding columns, deleting columns, messing with public views of your lists and libraries, give them contribute access on that list or library. So I'm going to move. I'm not going to deep dive too much into permissions because we have a whole other power hour about that. But I wanted to point that out, the huge difference between owners and members, and like all the things that members can do that you don't realize they can do. Now let's talk about another thing that owners have access to, that they have control over, is this site information. So owners can go in here and change the name of the site, change the site description. And now hub sites actually have a way to control who can add a site, their own site, to a hub site. So not every site owner is going to be able to just go in here and choose a hub site here. But these are just some basic things. I usually make my my site private. That's like, is that the most common, Joelle, that you do? Do you usually make them private so people can control who can do what? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one's public, of course, because this is Power Hour. And so those are the things that you can do on the site information page. And another big thing that site owners can do is they can apply a site template. And we have a whole other Power Hour about this. So, and these change often too. Microsoft adds new ones every now and then. So when you pick one of these, it's actually going to create all the lists and libraries, and it's going to change your homepage to whatever the homepage looks like for that template. It's not going to delete anything, but your site will just like drastically change before your eyes when you apply one of these templates to it. Another thing that site owners can do is, this is a setting that I love, and I'll go back to site permissions here. This is really important. Now, this setting right here, change how members can share. This is usually the first thing that I do when I create a site. Unfortunately, at least last time I looked, you cannot set this as a global setting. I would love to have this as a global, just default setting of only site owners can share files, folders, and the site. So have you ever had a site, anybody, where you have members in the site just adding other people, like sharing things with people that aren't members of the site, and then you end up with more members and you don't know how they got there, and like your content is just being kind of shared all over the place, and you have all these individual item permissions kind of all over the place and you don't know how it happened. That happens a ton. And this is the setting to pay attention to. Only site owners can share file, folders, and the site. This one says, the next one up is site owners and members, and people with edit permissions can share files and folders, but only site owners can share the site. And that's reasonable. And then this one is site owners and members can share files, folders, and the site. People with edit permissions can share files and folders. So that's pretty much everybody can share the whole site. So if I open that up, then, if I have Bob as a member of the HR site, and he just clicks share, he can share it with Sally, who's not even in the HR department, and that could be a problem. So pay attention to this. And I think there might be a PowerShell way to apply this setting to all of your sites. But again, it's something that the default when you first create a site is wide open, so everybody can share it. So that's a huge one. Let me know, Joelle, if anybody has questions. I don't see Teams because I'm got my notes and everything in front of me. And then also you can allow access requests or not. So this means that if somebody clicks a link that takes them to your site and they don't have permissions to your site, then it gives them a little box where they can type their request and request to join the site. Or if you just have this turned off, then they would just be presented with, you don't have access to the site. Bye, that's it. So you can allow access requests. So this is one of those things that, if you add 15 or 20 people as owners, that's a bad idea, because anytime somebody requests access, you have that access request is going to all those people. And most of those people probably don't even know what that is. So again, I would have 1 or 2 owners, and then have those people trained and understand what that email means, and then how to make that decision if somebody belongs on the site or not when they request it. So the owners is the default, but you could just change it to somebody else. So if I want Brenda to always just be the one that gets that email for the site request, then I could do that. And you could even put a custom message in here that will show on the request access page. So I'm going to put it back on Power Hour Owners, discard my changes. So that's a huge one. Also, if you have guests, you might have guest expiration. So I don't have guest access expiration turned on. So you all are all guests. You're not going to expire in here. And but that's a good thing to remember that exists. If you are like working with customers or clients and you're inviting them to a SharePoint site, it might be a good idea to put an expiration on that invitation so that they're not in there in perpetuity. Just so you don't have to remember to go remove them in a couple of years. Let's see, any questions about any of that? Let me see. Yeah, Judy said I turned sharing off for all on each site collection. Yep, exactly. Okay. Oh, Lisa says they create a custom security permission level on all their site collections called restricted contribute. That's a good idea. Yeah, great, y'all. So y'all agree with a lot of these things, a lot of best practices we're talking about here. That's good. I like to hear that. And then another thing, so remember that I said that all the members can edit the homepage. Well, what if you just want the site owners to be the ones in charge of the homepage? You don't want random people usually it's accidentally when they click edit up here, they don't even realize that's what they're doing. So, because a lot of times I'll go into a customer's site and I'll look on a homepage and it says, this site is being edited by, and I'll have somebody's name. And it's like they started editing it like 2 years ago and they just don't realize that they're editing the homepage and it's got some draft version somewhere. So if you don't want all the members editing your homepage or pages at all, you can go to your site contents, and when you go to your site pages library down here, that is where those pages live. The home page is just a file. So when I go to site pages, here's my home page. And so I'll just show you how to do this for the whole library, but you could do permissions for individual files in here. So to just prevent people from editing the home page and any pages at all, you can go to the library settings, more library settings, and this is where that permissions button is. And so what I usually do is I say delete unique permissions. Oh, actually, sorry, I already deleted unique permissions. I already did that on this page so that I will be the only one editing the home page. So you stop inheriting permissions. So by default, all the lists and libraries are going to inherit from the parent, from the site, whatever the permissions are on the site. So I stop inheriting. And then I go to the members and check the box, edit permissions, and then just go change it to read. And I change it to read, and that way all the members can just see the home page, but they can't edit it. So when you all go here, you're not going to even see an edit button up here. And then that permissions button I just showed you, that's where you can go to specific lists and libraries. You can change members to have contribute rights, which is a common thing that I do. And that's the same spot where you can go to. Let's see. Navigation is another big concept that the site owner might want to be in charge of. They might want to change their navigation. So here is your navigation. Now this is down the left side on this site, and on a communication site, it's a little different. I'm going to switch over and do the communication site like after I do everything on the team site, because I don't want to just keep switching back and forth. But so we'll just look at this navigation for now. Now, the first thing to know about navigation is built in the easy way. To me, it's the easy way. See how this lights up when I go to expense tracker, and it lights up because it knows I'm on the expense tracker list. I didn't hit edit, and I didn't manually add this expense tracker. So what I do is, let me just go to a different one. I go to the library settings or list settings, and then the list name or library name, description, and navigation. And then I'd change this to no. Display the document on the quick launch, no. So that is usually, that's the most common way that I remove things from, add and remove things from the navigation. So I'll go to this library settings and change it to no. Because when you, so let's go to one that let's go to the site contents. You can always go to site contents to see everything that exists in the site. Where whatever site you're on, if you're going to see a few things listed in the navigation, but if you go to site contents, that's going to show you absolutely everything that's in the site. So that way you can just go straight to what the content is that you want. So I'm going to say training module 1 playlist. So this is a list that I created and it's not in the navigation. So I can go straight to the settings like this and then just go here and change this to yes. And so I like that. It's like a clean and neat way to do it. So now when I go click on training module 1 playlist, oops, it like took me to the whole thing. But yeah, it's so weird. I guess the playlist list template just changes the entire page and takes away your navigation. Okay, good to know. Let me go back to site contents. But that's one way you can do it. And then, of course, you have an edit button behind my head down here. An edit button. And the edit button is going to switch it to this kind of layout here. And that's where you can do a little bit more. So you can rearrange things. So obviously you can't rearrange them the way that I just showed you. You can just decide whether it's showing or not. But once it's showing, then you can decide where you want it to be. So I might want this training to be up under documents. So now it moved, and then I can change it to a sublink. So that will make it indent a little bit. So I'll go ahead and go to the invoices library template and I'll move it up here. And then I can make that a sublink. So you've got 2 levels here that you can do. And there are several different concepts in navigation. I feel like, Joelle, did we have a whole power hour we talked about? I think we talked about like global navigation and hub navigation and like how it all, I think we did. We'll have to find it. She'll see. She'll look for it. And then, but that's how just the simple way that you can put sort of different little, different sort of indentions here. And we did have a whole power hour about audience targeting too. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But so now when people are on your site, this is more concise and they can expand it. And then I can also click edit and add a new one with this button. And if I just want to add just a label that is not a link to anything, I just want to maybe have like a little header over here, then I can just add it as a label and then I can move that. And then I can put things like conversations. I can make conversations a sublink of the header. And then I just click save when I'm done. And on we'll talk about a communication site. I'm going to stick to just staying on the team site. We'll talk about a communication site in a few minutes. So that's just the quick, easy, a couple of different ways to work in your navigation. Lisa's asking a question. Has anyone found audience targeting useful? Yeah, she's like polling you all to see what you think, kind of see what you all do if you all ever use it. That's a good question, Lisa. I'm curious to see what people say. So besides, so that navigation is plays a big part in how the site looks. And then you have.
I use it all the time.
Do what?
Audience targeting. I've had real life uses for it quite frequently.
Oh, okay. You can go ahead. Tell us.
Oh, for me? Yeah. It's just like if you have in your navigation, if you want to feature like team sites, in your global navigation, you can actually, use audience targeting so that, and you can even put audience targeting on the label itself for that piece of the navigation. So that way, if I have access to a team site, I see that team site. If I don't, then I don't see the team site. But then I also won't even see the tab for it as well. So like I've done that quite frequently. And then of course, just
because you don't want people to see it,
regional things,
and then and then click on it and they don't have access and they get that big access denied. So you can just like hide it from, yeah, good idea.
And I've also used it with regional stuff, like regional news and regional, like setting, like targeting regional type stuff or location based stuff too.
Oh, is that like targeting like news articles? Or just targeting
That I've done that, and then also links in the navigation too.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's been situations where there was like links in the navigation that were like targeted to specific regions and stuff. So.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Yeah, y'all let us know in the chat what if you all have used audience targeting too. So there's change the look is another that I think that change the look is probably the very first thing that site owners go to because they want to make their site look pretty. They're like, ooh, I have a website. Let me change the colors. So that's probably the first thing they do. So change the look is, so to me, the most important thing is the permissions, but probably site owners go straight to this. Now, you might not be able to do this if your SharePoint admin has locked this down, or if you're like your site is inheriting a look from a hub site or something like that, you might not be able to do this. So just keep that in mind that if you are a site owner and you can't do this, then that you might have some sort of template applied from some other place you don't have control over. So I can go change the theme. Oh yeah, there it is. Your site is connected to the home site hub site and is set to automatically adopt the same themes. That's exactly what I was talking about. So we'll go look at that one in a minute. And header, I can say minimal, compact, standard. I can kind of change, like there's no logo here. I can give it a logo. And I'm not going to spend time doing that right now, but those are a few things you can change about like how your header looks up here. So I'll just make it minimal there. And then I could say, do I not want a site title? I could do that. So I guess I could spend some time putting the Power Hour logo in there one of these days. I probably put it, yeah, I put it on this one. And then, so let's go, what's the hub site? So how do I know? It is the Hub Site Association is called the home site. And let me go to that one. That is this one right here. Oh, that's the one I already had. Oh yeah, so this color theme that I have on this communication site, when I go to the change the look and I go to the theme, this is what it looks like if you're not getting the error saying that you have a theme applied coming from another site. So this is what you have to choose from. And there is a way that you can create your own custom theme, and we have a Power Hour about that too, if you want to have your specific company colors and you don't want to just pick from those. So that's where this site is inheriting it from. So I saw that it was under change the look, under theme, it says it's inheriting it. And then I went to, I know I'm doing this kind of fast. And then I went here and I saw that home site is the one that it's inheriting from. So then I went there and that's where I saw, that's where that color theme's coming from. Let's see some of the other. So as you know, you probably noticed that this actually looks slightly different than the one on the communication site. And we'll go over there in a minute. So we looked at the header. Let's look at the navigation. So this is a navigation style. So we can go horizontal, which I've got a lot of links. I probably wouldn't want to go horizontal with all those links, or I can go vertical. Notice that when I go horizontal, then I could change it to mega menu versus cascading. So mega menus are kind of fun. That's where it kind of like has, like when you hover over something, this whole big menu comes out from it. Let me see. Since I have these little sub menus, see how the mega menu, I'm not even clicking on anything. I'm just hovering. And that's also going to give me the ability to have another level. So if I do top navigation and I do mega menu, then I have another level of navigation that I could put under here. The question now is, where did my edit button go for my navigation? So it's like, okay, so I have all the navigation moved to the top. Let me see if I can zoom out and make it back to more of like a normal, yeah, there it is. So there's my edit button. So if you put the navigation across the top, you just can't do a mega menu when it's down the left. That's just, you just can't, it's just not possible. But if you put one over here, let me just say link I'll just add a link to Bing website, open in a new tab. And now, and I can go make sublink again. See, I have another level. So, but if you don't have the mega menu, you just have one. Now I have 2 levels. So now, see, now when I hover over documents, it's got the 2 top level ones, and then it's got Bing up underneath it. So all the different 3rd level things would show up under the top levels. And so it makes it like you can have a lot of navigation, but it makes it very succinct and easy to find because this whole thing just pops out as you hover over things. All right, so that's how you can do your navigation at the top. Go back to my 150 zoom level and go back to my change the look, navigation, and I can change it back to vertical. And then again, no mega menu. Ooh, I can even turn it off. Ooh, if I don't want to have site navigation, that must be a new button. Do you think, Joelle? Site navigation visibility, like you can turn the whole thing off. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
been there a while.
new. Okay, I'll leave it on. I like finding things that are new just as I'm doing a demo. It happens all the time. And I just usually pretend that I totally knew it was there. That's what I'm doing. Okay, so change the look. We talked about that. Okay, so then another big common thing that site owners are going to want to do is after they like go immediately change the colors and the navigation, they're going to want to change the homepage, edit the homepage. So site owners should be trained on how to click edit here and kind of what this all is and what the web parts are. So I can see that I have this, each of these sort of squares, rectangles is a web part. And then they can hover and use a little plus to add more web parts. So like site. If you really don't feel like worrying about web parts or like having to do anything with it and you don't really want to keep it up, a lot of people don't really need anything on the homepage. They literally never use the homepage. They just go straight to the documents and that's what they're doing. They're just working on their documents. So you could just click site activity. And if you add the site activity web part, that's just going to show you like this wall of just stuff people have been working on and changing. And the only setting is to change how many items it shows. So that's going to be like the super easiest thing to put on a homepage, and I'll just click republish. But that's, and again, in our training, I have demos of, there's like 60 web parts. I have demos of every single one of them and what they do and what they're for. But again, editing the homepage is another common thing that site owners will want to do. And then I have, so let's talk real quick about the difference between like the concept of pages too, because you don't just have the homepage, right, Joelle? You have pages and then you have news posts, but news posts are also pages, right? Do you know, so how do you usually tell, or when you're creating pages and news posts, how do you determine like how do you explain that to people when you're giving them their site and teaching about that?
Usually one thing I will lean on is the length of time it's going to be needed. So if it's something that is going to need to stay on the page, like an explanation of what your department does, right? Like that's never going to go away. You always want to explain what your department does. So that would be a page. Whereas a news item would be like, hey, we're having, and like we're doing, what do they call that? Not
Open
onboarding,
enrollment
but
or something.
Open enrollment. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
My brain blanked. Open enrollment, right? Because that's only going to last a little bit of time. That probably would make more sense to be like a news page. So that's usually kind of like the first thing I'll use as a way to differentiate.
Yeah, but pages and news pages are all just pages, and you can find them all in the same spot. So so they can click new, and they can choose news post. And then they have all these little, Microsoft keeps adding new little templates here. So I've got like newsletter is one of them. And we had a whole power hour about create as a private draft. So there's a button behind Joelle's head. I'm going to click. It says create post. And so since I picked a template, it's got all this like example. I thought that was Heather Newman there for a second. It's got all this example content. And you can just change it to your own. It's just giving you ideas, it's giving you ideas of what you could possibly put on your page. So you could just like take their stuff and slightly change it, or you could literally just delete everything off the page and put your own stuff. So let's see, I'm going to put January news. And then you can take your own name off of it if you want, or you could put like the name, if you have like a marketing department or something like that, you could put the name of it there. You don't have, it doesn't have to be a person. It doesn't have to be anything. You could just leave it blank. So that's the quick way of creating a news post. And then this is new. So we've always, for a few years at least, we've had the ability to send news posts as an email, but it was kind of in a little weird, nuanced, kind of hidden place to go click the button to send your news posts as an email. So now, as soon as I click create a news post and I click to save it, publish it, it's saying, do I want to send my news post as an email? So now it's a lot easier to get to, right? Because if I'm creating a newsletter, I'm probably going to want to send the newsletter to people. So here's the newsletter. And do I want to send it as a link? So if I send it as a link, it's just going to have a button that they click to go to that SharePoint page. So this is the reason you'd want to do this is if you ever think this email could get into the wrong hands, if you're worried about people receiving the content of this information who shouldn't have access to it, then you can choose send as a link. That way, all they can do is just see a little blurb here and then try and click the link, and then they get access denied message if they don't have access to it. But if you don't choose send as a link, then all the content, the entire SharePoint page is in the email. So that's just kind of how you're going to decide, that setting, how to do that. So I can put Brenda in here and January news, and then I can just say test and then send that on out. And that's going to be in my outbox too, so I can go see what that looks like. Let me go look at that. This is just like my little demo account that I don't use. I don't even know what's in this mailbox. So here's the email that I just sent. And I could, just hit forward and send it to more people. I could have added more people on that screen, but this is how I can get to that content after I send it to somebody. So it's right there. Another thing, so now we've talked about the home page and we talked about the news page, and then all those pages that you create, I'll show you again. I can go to site content and go to site pages, and that's where I can always find those pages I created. So like if I'll go create a new page that's not a news page, just a regular page, and I'll just put basic text. Now I've got another page. And so now I've got another page and I published that. And notice that it didn't prompt me to send it as an email because it's a page, not a news or not a newsletter or anything like that. It's just got kind of the typical dialog box that it's always had here. But if I create a page and I forget and I don't click anything on that little dialog box that came up, and then I go home and I wonder, oh, wait a minute, I just created that page. Maybe I don't see it anywhere here. That's always where I can go find it, is just go into site contents, site pages, and then I can go to that page again, and then I can go ahead and add it, copy the link, and wait for it to give me a link, and then I could go, oh, I have to allow that. There we go, link copied, and I have settings for that. And then I could go add that as a link in the navigation if I want to. So paste that. So that's just another way that we can do those. Save that. Any questions so far? We've got like one more topic. So again, this is all very fast and very high level, but what I'm trying to cover is the important things specifically for site owners that they're going to commonly need to be trained on, need to understand how to do, and understand like the capabilities of what they have, their power that they have on this site as being a site owner. Another thing that site owners can do, this is our last topic and then I'll move over to the communication site differences, is that they can go to site usage. So the site owners will be able to see. So I like using this Power Hour site because it's not just some blank demo site that I created. Like, we're actually going to this site and you all are looking at it and using it during Power Hour and things like that. So I have my usage analytics, my unique viewers, site visits, some basic stuff like that. There's some cool by device. It looks like most of you are on your desktop. Time of day, it's usually 11 to 12 is when we have Power Hour. So that's when we're here. And then if I have my site shared with any external users, it says the site has no shared files or folders that people outside your organization have accessed, which is weird. I guess I didn't individually share any files or folders. I just shared the whole site. So it makes it look like I don't have any external users, but you are all external users. So I'm going to click Run Report. Yeah, no, so that's weird. All it has is, so it's telling me where do I want to save this report. Huh. Okay. Oh yeah, it lets me pick which library I want to save it to. Oh, it doesn't let me save it. There's no folders. It wants me to put it in a folder. Okay. So we'll see what that report looks like. And then you can change the number of days. So you could say, I could say 90 days, and then it's got all the data for 90 days, like that. And that's just the pretty basics. You can't really change anything that it has here. It's just you get what you get. And we did a whole other power about site analytics and usage that had like different things that you can do at the admin level, where you can see information about your whole tenant or all of your sites. And let's go see in the document library if that report arrived there. Oh, it's going to be a spreadsheet. Oh yeah. So, okay, don't care. So it's showing me like a permissions report. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. Good to know. All right. So that's usage reports, and that I'm going to wrap up talking about the team site and the things you can do on the team site. So most of the things with the team site are exactly the same with a communication site, but I'll talk about some of the mainly the differences. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joelle. The main differences are visual. They're like editing, like the theme and different like visual aspects, and the permissions, the way they work.
And then the members,
yeah. So the permissions is vastly different. With the team site, you get members and owners, and the idea behind team site, like Joelle said, is like everybody on the team is editing everything in there. But communication site, it's more narrowed down. So usually, I'll go to site access. Usually you're going to have just a couple, one or two, a handful of owners, the ones in charge of the site. And most everybody is going to be reading it. So right now I have everyone is set to read, and everyone except external users can edit it. So y'all are all external users, so y'all can just read this site. And then I'll go ahead and send the link. This is just, this is actually the root site. I'll put this in the chat so y'all can get to it. There we go. See that? Okay, so with the permissions, the way it works is I'll click site access again, and I wonder if you're in here. Yeah, I have you in there as an external user. I'll put Brenda. Okay, so I pick who the person is, and then I decide if they want read, full control, or edit. And I told you my pet peeve about the edit permission level. So I can pick what I want them to be able to do. Now, everyone is already set to read. If I need her to be able to read this site, I don't need to add her here individually. So also keep that in mind when you're managing permissions, is if somebody's already in the group that has permissions, you don't need to add them again. I see that happen a lot. So if I want to give her edit permissions, then here you go. And it's going to show what the email is going to look like. Or I could just not send an email. I could just add her. That's usually what I like to do, is I don't like to bother people with emails while I'm doing this. And so I can just add her and click share and not have to have it send an email. But notice that it's got 3 different permission levels, unlike the one, with the team site that just had 2. Now with permissions, you can completely customize them yourself, just like on both a team site and a communication site. But Microsoft, so permissions is like the absolute most complicated thing in SharePoint, and it's so tricky and so confusing. So Microsoft's trying really hard to simplify this and to make it easy to understand and easy to give people permissions to things. So that's why you'll see these very simple like members and owners, and very simple like edit, read, full control, because you can go deep dive and go like really granular and crazy with your permissions, but they want you to understand that you don't have to do that. You don't have to know where any of that other stuff is. You can just use this simple interface to do that, to give them access. So that's where you go to decide those 3 roles for your communication site. And then a communication site, notice it has a few new things here that the team site doesn't have. It has the ability to do global navigation, which we had a whole other power hour about, and hub sites, which we had a power about. And then it also has, let's go to the change the look. So that's going to be a big one that's got some different things, a couple of different things that the team site doesn't have. So of course it has the theme, and I showed you the color theme, and you can even customize it further with your main color and your accent color. And then it's got header, which the team site also had a header, but with your header, you also have, I have this one on extended. And with extended, it lets me have a background color to my header and even do an image. So that I put this wood, like a wooden fence, as this image. So that can look really pretty and really professional. I can put a thumbnail, decide if the title is visible or not, and I can even align the logo. So I centered this one. And then, let me go back. And then, so that was the header. As I change the header to other options, see that that image thing disappears when I pick the other one. So it's only for extended. And then I've got navigation, which is, I can turn it completely off if I want to. And again, same concept of mega menu versus cascading. Same exact thing. The mega menu is the one that has that big box that pops out that you can have 3 levels. So if I change it to mega menu, then I immediately get the ability to add 3 levels. And then footer is definitely something that team sites don't have. So I have enable the footer or not. I have my footer turned on. And then I have simple and extended. So it's basically gives you more real estate for your footer. So I can give my footer a logo. I can change, I'll put test footer. You don't have to have a display name for your footer. And then the background. So let's see what that looks like. I'll just save that. And scroll down to the bottom, and there's the footer down there. It says test footer. And I didn't put the logo in there, but this is where, now I kind of wish, Joelle, that the footer would always be there, and you don't have to go to the bottom. Do people complain about that? You don't have to go to the bottom to find it. So it's kind of like you're always going to have to scroll all the way to the bottom to get to the footer. But that's where that's a whole other set of links that you have control over that you can edit.
I would say that's probably, footer is not used.
Nobody wants a footer. Yeah. It's kind of like, why would I do that? It's hard to find. Yeah.
It doesn't go across the whole hub like you would expect when you sit on the hub site to go across all your hub sites, right? You would expect that, and it doesn't. So a lot of people just don't bother.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, so let's see. We went over site type, site owner versus member, site information, templates, permissions, home pages, navigation, changing the look, editing the home page, web parts, news, sending news in an email, usage reports, and we went over the differences between team sites and communication sites and crammed it all into an hour because in that hour I referenced all the other different hours that I deep dived into a lot of those topics. But if you, let's see, go to iwmentor.com. You have site management here is one of our courses, and they're all part of our ultimate plan, which includes all of our courses. But site management is all this stuff. So all like a lot of these things that I listed, except it's 2.5 hours long. So it's going to give you a lot more. It's very way more structured than what I just did. It's very structured. It's going to teach you all these things all in order, and it's going to have a lot more details about So you keep going and going about all these things. So that's going to be most of the stuff we covered is in there. And then also the site design and web parts is going to have, I only barely touched on site design and web parts, but it's going to have all details about changing the look, blah, 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 all the web parts and yeah, all that. So just if you like to have a more structured way of learning, that's where we have that content as well. And Joelle worked really hard on a lot, like all that hub site, all the training, the hub site, that the audiences, like a ton of that, especially in the site management class. Joelle is the one that put those slides together. So yeah, it's very detailed. It's one of those things that, so a couple of those things they might have changed and you don't have to do PowerShell anymore to do them, like the home site maybe, but yeah, it's all there. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. And if you go to our site and you click schedule, that's where you're going to see our schedule of when the Power Hours are going to be. So next week is our Advanced Power Apps and Power Automate live online course. So we don't have a Power Hour, but so the next Power Hour is going to be January 31st. And we will see you then. And I hope you all have a good winter. Stay warm and catch you next time.